Let's see what other things we haven't really covered yet. Some people have problems with bunions, with their big toe that moves over to the side. And if you will get a orthotic that raises the first metatarsal head, that's what's really helpful for that. So yeah, they're barefooted. If they're barefooted, your foot has a tendency to flatten out and you lose your arch, and then the toe tends to go over to the middle. So you end up with a bunion. So this bone sticks out here. What they do for that is they take a nail and drive it through and try and straighten it out and leave it for about 4 weeks, and then they pull the nail out because it fuses your joint. But or sometimes they'll do surgery to. But if you can go to a store where they're raising the first metatarsal head on the arch, so you want your arch to be maintained. You have a good arch. Stand up without your shoe on. Take your shoe off and then stand up, and you should be able to put your weight on it now. Put your finger. Yeah, you still have a little bit of an arch there. That's good. And you don't have a bunion. You just yeah, but it's not sticking out too far.
It's very, very, very simple.
Yeah. So, but if you could find a shoe that has more of an arch support that'd keep that first metatarsal up, it'll keep the alignment better.
If I get an
insert. I don't have mine in. I have mine in my tennis shoes, but they have custom ones. But most of the simple ones at least will help some. Some shoes have an arch support, but it's usually not enough. What we do is we take out the shoe insole and put in an arch support, an orthotic in there.
I'll take the commercial and see. Because I have the thing at night that I put to keep the toe spread, but it's still.
So why does the arch support help keep the toe from going up?
Well, it helps about 15 different things. When you have an arch support, it lifts up your foot a little bit on the medial side, and that aligns your knee also. If you think about when you're standing, if your foot drops, then your knee drops in. And then when you're walking, most of your weight's on the medial part of your knee, on the inside of your knee. So almost all arthritic patients, the inside of the knee wears out first, and that's why they have to get a total knee. You hardly see anybody with both sides worn out. It's almost always inside. So if they have an arch support, it trues it up, makes it straight, and then
so
they also get.
Wouldn't have to have as much issues with their knee.
That's right. If they had good arch support. That's right. And they also have hip pain when they have this with the arch flat too. Because if your knee goes in, then your hips strain with a different angle than normal. I ended up with knee and hip pain from using a pair of tennis shoes that they had a varus wedge. So it tips it in, and so it gives you kind of an artificial flat foot. But that was a craze for a while with a certain kind of tennis shoe. I had to take them back because it was giving me knee pain and hip pain. And I stopped wearing that shoe, and then my hip and knee pain went away. And 2 months later, I said, I'm going to try that again. I wore them all day long, and within 4 hours, the pain was back again. So I took them back and just exchanged it for another pair. And they did it. They gave them back because I hadn't worn them much. Told them they were dangerous. So, all right. I want to talk a little bit about charcoal. Most of you are familiar with charcoal poultices. You can do a charcoal poultice with a little bit of flaxseed blended up and mixed with charcoal, and and then with warm water, and it makes up a little jelly. The flaxseed or cornstarch will hold the moisture. Flaxseed's really better. It's got this gelatinous stuff in there that holds the moisture. Aloe vera would be fine too. Anything that's a jelly type thing that will hold the moisture. because charcoal by itself, if it dries out, does not absorb anything. It's got to stay moist. I had a man patient just a couple years ago that had a really bad swollen foot. He could not touch his toes to the ground. His uric acid level was fine. He didn't have gout, but his foot was just all red and swollen, and the doctor couldn't figure out what was going on with it. He didn't have any point where it was like infected. I said, Doc, would you let me do a charcoal poultice on this to see what it will do? And he sure, give it a try. He is an Adventist DO doctor in the States, and so he said, give it a try. So I did it. The next day, the swelling went down maybe half. The redness was about half. And he could move his toes now. He couldn't move his toes even. He could move his foot up and down a little bit now. So we did it the next night, about 12 hours. I put it on. We put it inside of a paper towel, put the charcoal over it, wrapped saran wrap around it, and put an ace wrap around that. He wasn't walking on it anyway, so it was okay. And then, well, the paper towel gets moist from that. So if it's a cloth, we usually get the cloth a little bit moist first. But second day, he was able to put a little weight on his toes, on his tip of his foot. Third day, he started walking on it. He said, it hardly hurts any today. 3 days, 3 nights, just 3 nights of charcoal, and that guy was good. He went home, and I think 2 more days after that. But he probably would have been there another month. And the doctor had no idea what to do for it. He was on antibiotics. It wasn't touching anything. So the charcoal helped. And then about a year later, I had a lady that had the same problem. I did it twice on her, and she was up walking around again. She was crying in tears. She could not even move her foot.
But it wasn't gout.
It wasn't gout, neither one of them. They tested him for uric acid. It was not gout. And it was more on the forefoot, not up in the ankle. It was just the whole top of the foot was red and hot.
Would you try
and this
use that with gout as well?
you could, sure. Yeah, I've used that for some gout too.
Does charcoal absorb uric?
I'm not positive about that, but it takes out some of the inflammation.
Some of the other aspects of it.
Yeah, it seems like it does a little bit. A couple other things with charcoal. Most people out in the community don't really know that it works for diarrhea. And I've used it for years with diarrhea, and it's helped some. But somebody told me once that Sister White mentions to mix it with olive oil. So I started doing that, and then it really worked.
For diarrhea?
For diarrhea.
I've heard it for ulcers. I used it for ulcers.
Yeah, I can see why it would do, and maybe
But
even
for diarrhea.
yeah, maybe even that one that you're talking about that's got the GERD with the olive oil. But one thing for sure is that when you mix it in a glass container or a plastic cup that you're going to throw away. But if you're going to wash it out, take a paper towel. Once you got as much as you can get out of it, take a paper towel and clean it out real good. Because if you stick that in your soapy water, it starts getting little bubbles of charcoal and oil all over the edge of your sink, and it takes you a while to wash your sink out. That was one of my patients' biggest complaint. My wife almost killed me. The sink was just this slimy charcoal mess, and so she was pretty upset.
When I was here at the health center, I was traveling home when I had diarrhea and I had the olive oil charcoal capsules. I haven't been doing that, but if you don't do the olive oil, I know my dean had diarrhea and everything. I said to him, take 2 tablespoons of water, do it every 2 hours, make sure you drink lots of water in between. And of course he didn't, because when he swung the other way, he said, now I'm constipated. He said, well, I need to compare with that. Make sure you drink enough water.
Well, one thing about after you have diarrhea, it usually takes 3 days before you have a good bowel movement again anyway. So, I mean, if it stops, it takes several days for things to kind of start moving through, at least a day and a half or so. You've emptied yourself out really good. And the reason for the diarrhea in the first place is it's not because you have the bacteria or some kind of bug in you. It's the excrement, from what I understand, of those little bugs they have waste products, and your body says, this is something foreign toxin, let's get it out of here. So you start having diarrhea. So you want to drink as much water as you can and a little bit of electrolytes, because you're losing a lot of electrolytes. I got Giardia and amoeba both one time, and I lost 17 pounds in 4 days, and I was cramping in my muscles and my balance was off. I couldn't even, you know, we had a squat toilet and I'd about pass out trying to squat on the toilet, and it was miserable. My wife, before we were married, we were out at Cowie-Dung out in the refugee border, and she gave me a couple bottles of IV fluid, and I felt almost normal again. It's amazing what a lack of water will do for you.
Coconut water, if you have any.
Coconut?
If you have none, it's also coconut water.
Yeah, coconut good. It's also good for IV.
Not
Drinking it, yeah.
Right.
If you're in the jungle, I've heard of doing it with that, but I don't think that's very safe.
I do it for IV, but if I'm not nurse, I
If
can't
they
do
can't do
IV.
this,
Yeah.
it makes perfect IV. It's good rehydration fluid. Is
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And
That's
places
what we-
like this where they have one.
No, they do in the border.
Okay, and so your ratio with the charcoal is about 50-50. About 50% powdered charcoal and about 50% oil. So about a tablespoon of each. I would a little bit extra on the oil. You want it to be not too thick, so that it's not chewy, and so you can just kind of lick it off the spoon and swallow it. It just should go down fairly easy.
How much charcoal to olive oil?
About a tablespoon of each, or up to maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So, but a little bit extra on the oil side. Add a little extra, maybe a tablespoon and a half. And when you have your bowel movement, it's going to be black and sticky. It's different.
Very cleansing.
Yeah. The charcoal, when it comes through your system, it's still sticky, like it's got oil mixed with it. It's not the same as when you eat charcoal powder with the water. Then it comes just kind of like it's mixed into your stool. This one comes through and it's still black and sticky and kind of almost like it's got the oil still mixed with it. I think when your body's digesting it or it's in your gut, it doesn't break the oil and the charcoal apart. It just goes and passes through the whole thing. So your colon is getting bathed with this charcoal stuff, and it's really good for any abscesses in the colon, anything that's, you know, where you've got some
Not right.
inflammation.
Yeah.
So colitis, something like that.
I've seen it used for, like you mentioned, ulcers, but it's a lower proportion of charcoal.
Yeah.
Where that was 2 tablespoons of olive oil and just a quarter teaspoon of charcoal.
Yeah.
And that was used for ulcers or any kind of stomach pain. And
Yeah.
it's given at night just before bed.
Okay, that sounds
And
good.
then people just sleep through the night and
Don't drink any.
and don't drink
Yeah.
after that. Give it a chance to just move through the colon.
And it
without
bathes
water.
the stomach, and
For ulcers or any kind of
GERD would work with GERD.
pain.
It was oil or water?
Oil, 2 tablespoons of the
Olive oil.
unrefined olive oil, and then a quarter teaspoon of charcoal, and that has given like 3 nights in a row. With
Sounds
someone
wonderful.
who's kind of doing a semi-fast kind of
Mhm.
thing will frequently clear out the.
Good, because that will coat the stomach lining and help to absorb any inflammation. If there's no food in there, then it's especially good. So like if they had eaten at 3 o'clock or so and there's not much food left in there in the evening, that would help to really coat the stomach.
Right, yeah, so
Yeah.
you're doing this.
And then no water afterwards, just leaving it so it's
Just
coating
let it
well.
just go.
Yeah, like the picture of Pepto-Bismol, it kind of coats the,
Yeah.
except it's black.
Yeah, there's some books that have been written on charcoal. You guys probably have some of those, but one other friend of ours used to go to Cambodia. Every time he went to Cambodia, he got sick. He got monozemic revenge or some parasite, traveler's diarrhea. So he started prophylactically taking charcoal tablets before he went every time, and this whole time that he was there. He
take a couple capsules or tablets before you go, for maybe a day or two before you go, and then keep taking it while you're there. Yeah. And just don't use salads in most of the countries that, you know, it's more dangerous. There's all kinds of bugs. The way I got my Giardia and amoeba was from ice, though. I was in a refugee camp, and the guy wanted to buy me a cup of coffee, and I said, I don't drink coffee. He said, okay, never mind. And he went and he ordered iced tea. Well, I would have done better with the coffee, because the ice was from outside the camp, and they had, you know, from dirty water, and they made it frozen, and they brought it in and had amoeba and Giardia both in it. And I only drank about 1 inch. If I had drunk the whole thing, I might have died. So, I mean, it wasn't fun. Another thing is, the last time that we were here, we went to a potluck, and when we got back to the States, I had some diarrhea, and just before we left, I had some diarrhea, and I could not get rid of it. So I went to the doctor and did a stool sample, and they said, oh, it doesn't show there's anything in there, you know, nothing abnormal. So I waited another week, and it was still the same, and I said, could you do another test? And so he did another test, still normal. So he said, listen, we'll give you a round of Flagyl, just to, you know, it'll probably help. Flagyl kills almost everything. So I did a round of that, and it went from maybe 5 days a week having diarrhea once a day to maybe 2 times a week having diarrhea. A lot of gas, a lot of rumbly stomach and stuff. I knew something was still going on in there. Carol happened to look in the store, and there's this one that's called anti-parasitic tea, and for candida too. And this was from at Village Market. One of our church members has a whole bunch of different herbs that he uses. It's a naturally sweet. This one has mint. It's really tastes good. So we'll pass it around. You can take a look at that. We'll let you see that just briefly there. But that, I took 2 cups of that one night, and then the next night. Maybe it was even the next morning, and that cured it. Whatever bug it was done away with, and it was a lot more mild than the Flagyl. So I'm thinking maybe that would have worked to begin with the bug. The other thing is that papaya seeds are supposed to be very good for also for the same thing, for parasites.
You know how much papaya seed?
I don't eat a ton of them, but I'll probably eat, if I eat some papaya, I'll probably eat a teaspoon of papaya seeds when I eat papaya. I might have, you know, a ring or 2 slice, you know, a whole ring, but maybe. So it'll mix in with each bite. I'll have 2 or 3, 4 seeds.
That's a hard way. It's a little bit bitter. So what I do is I dry my papaya seeds.
Okay, dry the papaya seeds.
I dry the papaya seeds, and I grind it into
Powder.
But I also dry my avocado seeds and my pumpkin seeds, and so I have an antioxidant sprinkled on my food. So it's I'll put cayenne pepper in it, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, all the kind of seeds. Just blend it with the papaya.
A little
seeds.
garlic powder and onion powder.
Garlic powder, onion powder, everything, and cayenne. It really is tasty, and it's like my antioxidant sprinkle.
Put some
Avocado seeds, dried avocado seeds as well.
How do you grind them up?
I cut it a little bit and then I dry it, and then just saying coffee grinder. I use a coffee grinder to grind all this.
Wow. What's
Really?
that taste like?
Avocado, I don't know. I don't taste it by itself. It's all mixed. I know the papaya tastes a little peppery, but I haven't tasted the avocado by itself. But I know it's high in antioxidants.
So papaya?
Any seed I have. I eat chocolates, but like I eat my pumpkin seeds. But if you wanted to not eat them, then I just dry them use my dehydrator or just air dry, and then grind them in a coffee grinder.
You use the pulp on the outside of the pumpkin seed too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't shell it. I just
Yeah.
I use dry.
Then use the, I've heard, I haven't tried it, but the avocado seeds fresh, and just put them in your smoothies.
And blend it
I
up.
used to do that as well.
Very good for you. It's really good.
Yeah. High antioxidants.
I just
Yes.
learned that recently.
High antioxidants.
We haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you threw in some black sesame seeds or those are,
Sesame seeds,
yeah, that's
chia
good.
seeds, everything.
Nice.
That's what I like.
Sesame, I love the taste of sesame. It covers up a multitude of sins.
Not that I appreciate it. Now you know the pie seeds are
Papaya seeds are bitter.
But when you try them, they're a little spicy.
Yeah, I've tried them.
I don't know what
I've heard of
avocado
it,
seeds.
we haven't tried it.
I don't know what the flavor of avocado seeds. But that's my myself. And the smoother they're tasty.
All right, one other thing that we need to be sure that you understand for the public is that if you get chicken pox, that charcoal is very helpful. You can take it internally, but especially externally. When those little dots start forming all over the place, you soak the kid or the adult in charcoal bath for 30 minutes twice a day, and those things dry up and they stop itching. The first time you use it, it stops itching. You can pour the charcoal water over their head, just kind of put it on their face, a little thicker, you know, you just put it on and then rinse it off good. But let little kids play with their little toys in the water and stuff. Their waters, you know, have it fairly deep. But it only takes a couple, maybe a tablespoon or two of charcoal to dissipate in the water. But that makes a big difference.
So 2 tablespoons in all that.
In all that water.
Only 2 tablespoons?
It's amazingly helpful. Yeah, you could use more than that, but I don't think you have to.
It doesn't make any marks on
It doesn't. It hasn't left any. One of our,
You know, Pastor Somchire, union president, he was one that had really bad cases of
he had it in his ears and in his, no, chicken pox.
And we have a picture over here with the charcoal bath up in the health center.
Yeah,
But can you do that for shingles though too, since it's all?
it should be okay. Dr. Thrash says with shingles, the best thing to do is to get an ice pack. As it's tracking around from your spine towards wherever it's coming around, put an ice pack on it, and that will stop the progression of it at least. It just stops it in its tracks. So where normally it would keep going around the nerve pathway, just put a cold pack on it and keep it on it. I don't know how long she did it for, I think quite a few hours. She did it just to stop the progression of it, and probably put it right over the area too to kind of numb it. So that's one of the things. But charcoal probably would be very good for that. Charcoal is good for lots of things, for poisons, for detox, for putting over the liver with if you've got some poisoning. One other thing for detoxing that I had never heard before, but I had a movie star patient or a friend in Hollywood, and she used to drink about 15 to 18 cups of coffee every day because all of her friends were memorizing their parts. She just kept drinking coffee like to stay awake and be alert, and so, but it was just the thing to do. Everybody's sipping coffee, and they'd do their parts, and then they'd come back and memorize for the next day, and then they'd go home. And after a while, she started becoming allergic to all petroleum products. So that's plastic, nylon, paint, air from an exhaust on a car. She was just sprays on bananas and on any fruits and vegetables, and she was allergic to almost everything. Wood she wasn't, cotton she wasn't, but just like touching plastic, she'd get welts and just swell up, and her throat would swell up. She was 5'11". She went down to 90 pounds. You could see the outline of every bone in her body. Her knees, you could see, if you were an anatomy teacher, you'd love it, because you could find every little bump. Oh, there's the bump where that muscle attaches, and there's a certain process, and it was not good. She was a very pretty girl, but just skinny as a rail. This went on. She could barely eat stuff, but she found foods that she could eat, and she would eat those. And then after about 6 months, just barely hanging on, she went to a doctor nearby, out in the San Fernando Valley, and he said, "What I want you to do sounds really strange, because right now you can eat oil, you can eat meat, but I want you to totally quit eating all meat, and I want you to quit eating anything with any oil in it. I want you to make all your own food." And within 1 month, her body had changed the oil that was in the liver. Most all toxins are fat soluble, and they store in the liver, waiting for a time when your body can mobilize them. So if you're fasting, it might kick out some of those. But for her, she had a
She had like fatty liver?
she had, well, everybody's liver's got fat soluble toxins in it. It's just the body stores them there until they can process it. Even some of our antibiotic stuff that we get, from shots, or if we ate meat in the past, the different things are stored there. This helps to clean out toxins. By what her body did was it broke down all the oils from corn oil and whatever kind of oils they were that are not natural, and it replaced them with her own body fats. So it freed her body from all those toxins by allowing them to be mobilized out into her system, and she just peed it out.
So how did it, was taking the charcoal?
The charcoal, no, I'm on a different page. The charcoal would have helped her too, but just simply not having oil and fat from the meats and the oil helped to mobilize that stuff so that the toxins could be eliminated. Charcoal would have been good to grab onto those things as it's eliminated. Charcoal is amazing that way. So.
How about charcoal as compared to clay?
Yeah, as a poultice.
Poultice
Or internally. I have not had experience with the clay. I've heard it's very effective. There's several different kinds of clay.
The clay
Go ahead and mention.
It's a little easier to work with.
Yeah.
Because you just make the paste and just put it on directly. It's not as messy.
Yeah.
I have a story on the border. The first year we came here, I got the little stickery plants, made a bunch of scratches on my foot,
Yeah.
and it started to swell. And so I started putting charcoal poultice after poultice after poultice. It didn't stop it, and it just got swelling. And I thought, I remember someone telling me about clay poultice.
Yeah.
So I got the clay out and I made a poultice and I started putting that on. And 3 days, all went away. It's a bacteria is very powerful. Clay comes in.
Yeah. Good.
Charcoal it doesn't seem to cut the very powerful bacteria.
Okay. Good.
Clay, what kind of clay?
Clay, we just got a bentonite clay.
Bentonite. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So that's what I use.
Very good.
I was bentonite clay. Actually, the pharmacy in Mesa, she ordered it from Bangkok. This
Didn't
big
you have
one.
green clay at that time down there?
No. I don't remember. That was bentonite clay.
Yeah, that's the one you usually hear about. It's the bentonite.
Yeah.
And you can take that internally too, right? Yeah.
Really.
So absorbing toxins.
When our boys were young, they were playing up in a tree here, and Daniel came screaming into the house. He had been attacked by hornets. On his back, he had his shirt off.
He had 5 bites.
5 stings. And so I quickly mixed up some charcoal with water and just patted it on there, and right away he stopped crying. He said, okay now. So we went back out to play. So that night, Byron said we should put a charcoal poultice on each one overnight. And we could only find 4 of them. And so we said, probably the other will be okay. So in the morning, tell him that happened.
So we gave him a bath and put his t-shirt on, and the next day he just went out. He was playing with the same t-shirt on, and we didn't check on him, but we just had little band-aids over 4 of them. And the next afternoon or evening, he took his shirt off, and I went, whoa. And the one spot that didn't have the charcoal was a welt that was about 1.5 inches around and about 1/2 inch high. And then it was mottled about maybe 6 inches around. It was just really, it would have been horrible with all 5 of those like that. But the one, it had taken enough of the poison out to begin with. We couldn't even see it to put a Band-Aid on it. and to put the charcoal on it. But the other ones just had a little blob of charcoal with the cornstarch and just a Band-Aid, but that absorbed the poison in it enough so it didn't have any welt. You couldn't even see it when you took them all off, gave them a bath. It was just that great big one with the mottled area around it.
Was there a green?
And he said yeah, I just thought it was all of them. He said it itched like crazy all afternoon. So it was a great experiment we didn't mean to do to him. But
Yeah, you know, on the border, we had lots of problems with boils.
yeah.
And we used to do charcoal poultices on boils, and it seemed to do okay. But this one girl, she had a abscess that was more internal, and the people were doing charcoal poultices one after another,
Yeah.
and it wasn't getting anywhere. Just more pus would come out. And I remembered again clay, so I went and I made another clay poultice, and I put it on there. Within 1, 2 or 3 applications, there was no more pus to come out.
Wow. Did you put it kind of down into it too?
No, I just put it
Right on top.
where it was oozing out. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, to me,
That's-
it has a stronger pulling
Yep,
power
yep.
than charcoal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And in fact, these Portuguese people that we learned this clay from, they treat a lot of cancer with clay poultices, like abdominal or anywhere on the body.
Or skin cancer?
Yeah, skin cancers. If it's more internal, they'll put like an inch thick clay poultice over the abdomen or wherever like that. They say they have pulled so much cancer out that way. Skin cancer, you just put like a paste on or a gauze over it like that, and you change it maybe 3 times a day. But they have really had success with cancer.
Wonderful.
Clay is much stronger. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very good.
I have a testimony too.
Okay.
I somehow got an infection in my arm, and it was pus and just it kept spreading. And I was doing charcoal poultices for days, and it wasn't stopping. It kept going.
Is it like an
It
internal?
was weird. And then Hannah came, the daughter came over, and she said, "Oh, you should use some clay." And so we had some clay that we had for a long time we never used. So we made a clay poultice, went to sleep that night, put a poultice on, went to bed. Next morning I got up and I took that thing off, and it was like I made an indentation in my skin that pulled all this stuff out. And the healing started from that point on. It's like
It
quickly
turned
cleared up.
from a mountain into a cavity.
Cavity.
It just pulled all
Wow.
that out, and then it started healing. It was quickly
Amazing.
cleared up. It was amazing.
That's because Hannah had learned it at Sunshine where we were
Yes,
using
she
it.
said she had experience there, and as soon as she told me that, I want to try something.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And she knew what we
Just mix it with water.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just give another note on that, is that since then, I've heard other people say the power of clay, but there was one guy who's a naturopath, he said even more powerful than charcoal or clay is the inside of the prickly pear cactus. If you get that stuff, that is the best pulling power and healing of anything you've ever found. You make a poultice of that.
You just take a prickly
Take all
pear,
the spikes off and get the inside out. So that
cactus,
is the number
and
one.
peel it, and then cut it in half and use it as.
But I don't know if we have it here.
Yeah, I think you can find it. It goes
It's
everywhere.
not easily found. We've been
But
looking.
the other kind of cactus,
Yeah.
So the little red prickly pear, those.
They're like a flat leaf. They're
You don't mean the
flat.
fruit, you're talking about
The leaves.
Oh, the leaves. Okay, not the blossom.
yeah, they're like the Hispanic thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
The ones that Mexicans use it a lot in their cooking and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
So you take the thorns off and then you don't skin it, right? You don't peel it. Just cut it right in half and then
They pull the stuff out and then use that as a poultice. You can just, they just take a spoon and get
scoop
it out.
this stuff out.
Okay.
Did they
Great.
take it out or did they just put it in the leaf?
He took it out. But you
Oh,
don't
he
have
took
to.
it out.
One other note from some Adventist friends of ours who work with natural remedies, they said for charcoal and clay, they work best separate. If you put them together, the clay gums up the charcoal and you lose the pulling power of both. So you keep them separate. I was mixing them. You need to-
Okay. Good. Very good. All right.
I do.
Let's. You got.
I'm a tooth problem, so I mix it into my clay with charcoal, but it doesn't matter.
That would matter. Yes.
Oh, and the other thing is that we use charcoal for like soaking vegetables in to try to pull the pesticide out.
The charcoal.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And
And-
water and
You can use the same water for 3 or 4 batches of vegetables or grapes or whatever. It absorbs a lot.
But the charcoal
sometimes
for the pesticides, then the other part.
sometimes it's the vinegar and salt, and sometimes it's the charcoal. Yeah,
All right.